It is in our nature to judge the people around us. We judge the way strangers dress, the way our neighbors tend their lawns, and the way our friends act in public. Yes, we make these judgments all the time, never thinking that one day we may be judged ourselves.
Unlike so many other shows targeted at the female audience, Desperate Housewives isn't centered on romance. The Wisteria Lane women have enough worries other than romantic relationships, the challenges of everyday life, trouble at work, and murder. The parent-child relationship is a particularly important topic in the show. In this video, we are going to analyze how the main characters were influenced by their parents and how it affected their relationships with their own children. Warning, this video contains spoilers. If you like our videos on the psychology behind films and TV shows, like this video and share it with friends.
Well, I have your test results. Congratulations, you're pregnant.
Women like Gabby are often described as femme fatale. She is obsessed with her looks, money, and sex. At first, she seems superficial and unsophisticated. But as the plot unfolds, her genuine feelings, her ability to love, and her inner strength are revealed to us. Gabrielle lost her father in early childhood, and her mother was apathetic towards her. Despite living in poverty and the lack of support, this girl knew exactly what kind of life she strove for. She quickly learned that her beauty was the means to achieve what she wanted. So, manipulation became her primary strategy in the pursuit of her goals, and she mastered this skill to perfection. The most tragic part of Gabby's childhood was being repeatedly sexually assaulted by her stepfather. Naturally, this kind of trauma leaves a deep psychological scar. Her obsession with sex and the tendency to hide her feelings behind a big smile reveals this trauma. At first glance, it seems that Gabrielle's relationship with her husband is built on that. She can't honestly tell him how lonely she feels, begins her affair with the gardener, and attempts to solve family issues in bed. But when the problems build up and Carlos can no longer afford her lifestyle, we see that Gabby finds new ways to express her feelings and take responsibility. Carlos, in turn, begins to notice her love and helps his wife to deal with her inner demons. Their two daughters were born when their family was going through its hardest times. We rarely see Gabby in the role of a mother. Never having experienced her mother's love and care, Gabby doesn't know how to give love to her children. She tries to compensate for that in her usual manner, by creating a pretty picture. She throws luxurious parties and buys the best toys, but being an emotionally available mother is impossible for her. Naturally, all of this affects the children, and at some point, they get out of control. This is when Carlos helps his wife by taking control of the girls' upbringing and literally trains Gabby to be around them.
Can we at least finish the kitchen?
Fine.
Susan? Go play with your friends.
Susan is the first character we see in the show. She is charming and cute, but she has absolutely no idea how to control her emotions and tends to rely on them in everything she does. In psychology, this kind of behavior is called infantile. This means that an adult continues to behave like a child or a teenager. The cause of Susan's infantile behavior are rooted in her childhood. She was brought up by a very emotional and frivolous single mother. The show doesn't tell us about Susan's childhood in detail, but from what we know, we can conclude that building a stable relationship in her family was impossible. Susan never learned to set psychological boundaries and recognize them in other people. Neither does she know how to make grown-up decisions and care for herself. Her primary coping strategy, that is, her way of coping with problems, is finding a person who will take care of her and the consequences of her infantilism. That's why she knows how to attract a man. For her psyche, this is the safest way to delegate the responsibility for her life to someone else. Each housewife fights for happiness, dealing not only with the outside world, but also inner demons. Some can't overcome childhood trauma, others don't believe in themselves, and some are better off solving their own problems, not other people's. We all face similar issues from time to time. Our courses in psychology can help you understand yourself better. Follow the link in the description. Art for Introvert isn't just a YouTube channel. We are an educational project that provides expert knowledge in multiple fields. Check out our courses. They are created by the same people who worked on this video. The most obvious consequence of Susan's behavior is the situation of her eldest daughter, Julie. After Susan divorced her husband, who was a source of support for her, she wasn't ready for a new relationship. So she had to be taken care of by a 12-year-old child. Julie had to take on domestic duties and deal with her mother's emotional issues. In the first season, we see that it's Julie who helps her mother figure out her relationship with Mike and make life-changing decisions for her. This negatively affected Julie. Being used to trouble since an early age, she cannot build a stress-free life for herself and always gets involved with difficult men. It seems that things get back to normal with Mike in Susan's life. He takes responsibility for making grown-up decisions and her emotional problems and becomes a stable parental figure for their son, MJ. Susan can finally pursue her career and becomes enthusiastically involved in her son's life. Then, Mike's life suddenly ends, and it seems that Susan is stuck in the victim role again. Her friends and daughter try their best to help, but Susan takes control of her life this time. After a fight with her son's schoolteacher, she realizes that she copes with her loss in the way her little son would. She then makes a step towards adulthood. She helps MJ to get through resentment and makes her first responsible decision, moving out of Wisteria Lane to the city and help her daughter with her newborn child. Since the first season, Lynette became the mother of the series. Children of the other Wisteria Lane friends have either grown up or haven't been born yet. Lynette, however, is entirely preoccupied with caring for her newborn daughter and the 3 almost uncontrollable little boys. Her attempts to discipline the twins and remain a good mother at the same time cause Lynette's mental breakdown and almost drive her to suicide. We later find out that her desire to control everything isn't just an attempt to calm her children down, but her way of life. Lynette grew up too fast when her mother became ill with cancer and began drinking. As a teenager, Lynette took a parent's role for her younger sisters and had to take on all the domestic duties. The only way for her to cope with this kind of responsibility was an obsession with control. This was when Lynette learned to ignore her exhaustion, to work flat out, and to plan 10 steps ahead. These qualities helped her build a successful career in advertising. After being in charge of her sisters for so long, she didn't want children, but her life turned out differently, and Lynette became the mother of many children. Naturally, the perfect control skills did not work so well in these circumstances. So, the result was a deep crisis. She managed to overcome it only by lowering her expectations of herself as a mother and sorting out her priorities. Lynette's new strategy of child upbringing reflects a concept of a good enough mother, developed by the pediatrician and psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott. According to him, a mother needs to follow a few simple rules to avoid guilt. First, a mother's happiness is as important as her child's. An unfulfilled, angry, and exhausted mother will be unable to accept and emotionally support the baby. That's why Lynette goes back to work. Even though she gets to spend less time with her children, the time they do spend together becomes more precious and joyful. Secondly, a mother needs to give enough, but not too much, attention and care. She ensures a child's safety, but is not overprotective. Thirdly, a good enough mother is not a perfect mother. She isn't afraid of making a mistake and gives as much support as needed for the healthy development of her baby. Following these new principles, Lynette creates harmonious relationships in her family. She teaches her children to support each other and be independent.
Anyone who'd ever been to a party at Bree Van de Kamp's thought of her as the perfect hostess because Bree knew how to take care of her guests. Her dinners were always served promptly. Her liquor always flowed freely. And her anecdotes were always enjoyable.
At first, it seems that the life of Bree Van de Kamp is an embodiment of the American dream, a suburban house, a husband, and 2 children. But already in the first season, we find out that things behind the perfectly steamed curtains are not as good as they appear. Bree is coping with her husband's cheating, complicated relationships with her gay son, and the never-ending arguments with her egotistic daughter. Bree deals with her anxiety and stress by cleaning and tidying. In this behavior, we can see the symptoms of obsessive-compulsive disorder, which is often accompanied by obsessive thoughts and rituals. Bree's compulsion is cleaning. But what is the cause of it? In one of the episodes, Bree shares the story of her mother's death, who was hit by a car. After the body was removed, the little girl was left alone in the street, looking at a blood stain on the ground. When she washed it off, she felt relieved. Very likely, this episode marked the beginning of her fixation on cleaning, which became her preferred way to overcome troubles. It is as if she tried to conceal them, make them invisible. She hides her feelings and real emotions for the same reason. She washes them off like dirt. Lynette communicated with her children in the same impenetrable manner, which is why they didn't get enough affection from their mother. Tired of the pretentious overprotection, they wished to break free into an independent life and tried to show how different they are from their mother. This became a turning point for Bree. She realized her failure as a mother and that it was probably too late to fix her mistakes. Bree became addicted to alcohol, but therapy in Alcoholics Anonymous helped her figure out her feelings, take off her mask, and see the world more realistically. Later, she finally learned to accept her grown-up children with all their problems. She mended the relationship with her son, helped her daughter to realize herself, and began to treat her children as independent adults rather than a part of the ideal housewife fantasy. And who is your favorite housewife? Write in the comments below. We often recognize ourselves in the characters of films and TV shows and relate to their problems. To avoid repeating their mistakes and wasting 8 seasons stepping on a rake, get access to all our courses with our subscription for just $6.99 a month. The link in the description below.